All right, what is up, everybody? So, I have a companion-focused build. So, this is a Beastmaster Khora build in which Venari is doing most of the damage, and you are also stealthed. Um, so this one's pretty weird. So I would just bear with me. I'm gonna play it in Steel Path a little bit. Um, and then we'll go over all the different pieces that go into it because everything kind of like fits in together. Okay, I'm going to be using some equipment and mods that have been in the game for a long time but not really used very much. A bunch of the new companion mods. So let's kind of get into it and show the gameplay a little bit, and then we'll go and go over the build. So first off, roar, classic. Now I'm actually going to go into operator, use Naramon to get a finisher off. Now, why would I do that? So I want to, now I'm actually going to do something else. So this build actually uses a ton of operator gameplay. Okay, so I'm actually using my operator to buff my pet and like do some things with my melee. Okay, so now like my buffs are up for my pet. So I'm gonna kill that guy, and of course the mecha set bugged out because why wouldn't it? So now what am I doing here? Like what is happening? So I'm basically using Venari to attack targets with the mecha set, and that is spreading Venari slash proc. And look at that shit. Do you see how many? Those are Steel Path enemies. Venari just killed all those. I'm doing nothing. Okay, like this is just wild. All right, so let me try and do it again. So now I'm gonna say this is not like good. Okay, this is not like a good build. All right, this is like a meme build, but man, it's actually like super fun. Okay, so I will go over all the different pieces that go into this. All right, let me find another. Okay, there he is, right there. There's the mecha set right there. Okay. Oh, look at that shit! Oh my god. Okay, I've been having way too much fun with this. Okay, so all right, let's do it again. Let's get our stealth going. Okay, get roar up. All right, so now we have our companions all buffed. Now we gotta find where is the mecha dude? Where is the unlucky enemy that is going to get killed by our Kubro? And it's that guy right there. So, oh, all right, let's make sure. No, Venari, attack the right person. Okay. Oh, it didn't work. Dang it. Oh, okay, right. Okay, so I'm gonna pull enemies in, and they're all dead. And they're dying from the slash procs. Okay, so let me heavy attack, get another buff up for Venari. Okay, gonna get some more buffs going. Roar is expiring in a second. So this is a lot of, it's like, this build is all just buffs. It's all just buffing Venari, and Venari doing like a lot, like pretty much all of the actual damage. And I'm gonna go over that in the simulacrum real quick, but I just wanted to showcase this. All right, I just want to find one more. Okay, this is perfect because it's a so that is an Eximus. That was a Steel Path Eximus. I did not even remove the overguard on that enemy. Okay? That is insane. I'm doing nothing. All I'm doing is buffing Venari. This whole build is Venari Prime. So, alright, I'm going to get out and we're going to go over the build a little bit. I have, like, making this build was so much fun. So it kind of started as a really stupid idea, but then it's one of those ideas where it's like, this is so dumb, but wait, it's actually kind of working. And as I, like, thought about it more and more and refined it more and more, I kind of got to the point where it is today. So I'll show you the build as I have it now. There's also a few other options that so one thing that's kind of nice about this build is it's actually like relatively accessible. I feel like it doesn't actually use like too many like crazy arcanes and stuff. So let's go over it. So what do we have? All right, so we got Khora. Now, ignore this weapon. The only reason I have this here is for shield generation, right? And I don't even like really need it. I also like to have the combo duration. So this build is all about Khora, Skajati, Naramon, Venari, and a Kubro. Now you can use like whatever Kubro you want. I personally like the Medjay Predicite, and I'll go over a few reasons why. Now, this is a very like interlocked build. Like every single one of those components that I just explained all fits in with each other. And the whole goal of everything is buffing Venari. Okay? So I'm actually going to go over Venari first. Okay, so now Venari is a little weird because Venari doesn't actually do auto attacks. What Venari does is this weird chain attack that has guaranteed slash procs. Okay, so I have viral on here because those attacks can apply viral, which obviously is very good with slash. Now, those attacks, I tested this like pretty extensively, and I never saw those attacks do more damage when I had bite equipped. So I tested it with and without bite many, many times. I don't think that they can crit. So I'm not using bite. They did get increased by maul, and you can apply statuses, so I am using viral. Now I have like pack leader. Like honestly, you can take this off. You could put like basically anything you want here. Vitality doesn't really matter. The really important things are maul for the damage, viral, and then you get into the buffs. Okay, so you have momentous bond. So this is killing an Eximus gives damage to your companion. Great, more damage. Awesome. Covert bond. Now you might have seen I was doing a lot of finisher attacks. So that was stealthing me, and we'll go into how it was stealthing me in a bit. It was also stealthing my companion, and that stealth will not break from attacking. So my companions are basically invulnerable because they're stealthed all the time. Tandem bond. Okay, so my companion is building up my combo counter. This doesn't really work very well for Venari. It works better for the your other companion. But the real reason you're using this is the buff. Okay, this is going to give you a massive buff to your pet when you do a heavy attack, and it scales with your combo counter. Now, finally, we have Astral Bond. So, Astral Bond is when you attack an enemy with an operator or drifter, you give another damage buff to your pet. Okay, so now one thing you might be saying, why is Contagious Bond not on Venari? It feels like a no brainer. Well, for some reason, it just doesn't work. I actually submitted a bug about this because it genuinely just feels like it's broken for some reason. Like I tested this a lot, and when it would spread Venari slash procs, they were doing like minuscule amounts of damage. So like if there were slash procs on like a 195 heavy gunner that were taking half their HP, it would literally take like 2% of their HP when it got spread. So I don't exactly know how they're doing the math for this 50% of the status effect spreads, but it's decimating the amount of damage that you're doing. And on top of that, when I had Contagious Bond, it was also making the mecha set bug out and not work either. So I did report those as a bug. So if those got fixed, you would 100% use Contagious Bond. And it would actually be insane. Contagious Bond would make this build work infinitely better. So I'm actually just going to throw it on here because that is what I would actually use. Um, Other than that, like here I have Swipe, which frankly doesn't even work on Venari. You can kind of just do whatever you want, right? Like it doesn't really matter. You could maybe use Mystic Bond. You could use like Vicious Bond doesn't work either. Maybe it's like your pet isn't really doing anything else. So yeah, and you don't really need defensive stuff. So this spot, I'm actually just gonna take this out. You can kind of put whatever. I don't use Contagious Bond until it's fixed. So when I first made this build, I was actually trying to do like a health tank thing for Khora, So I put Umbral mods on her because if you're familiar with the Mecha set gives you armor when you put on Mecha Pulse, and this will give you actually quite a bit of armor. So originally I had on the Umbral mods, I had Mecha Pulse, I had like Guardian and Grace, which are like very expensive arcanes. So it was very, very like health tank, and I was still just dying in Steel Path. And so the idea that I had was, I was gonna tank up, use a bunch of armor and health. I tried Arcane Blessing, all that. And I initially had Hunter Recovery on Venari, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make Khora super tanky. She's gonna heal from Venari's damage. Problem was, is it like the way Venari attacks? It's like very inconsistent, and I was kind of just dying in Steel Path, even with adaptation and everything. So I was like, all right, I'm scrapping this. I almost just scrapped the whole build. Then I thought of a weapon that I hadn't used in a very long time. One of the very first builds. I don't even think I made a video about it. I just think I made like a Reddit like post guide. It was Silence Banshee with the Skajati. So and then eventually like using that for Marked for Death before Marked for Death got nerfed. So I'd used Skajati in the past, and so what does the Skajati do? Props to DE for adding this nice user interface where you can actually see the unique effects on weapons. So the unique trait that the Skajati has is when you do a finisher attack, you are invisible for 5 seconds. Pretty cool. Okay, now this isn't like a very good build. This build is mostly here to proc that tandem bond buff. Now you could do something like, I actually have like a pretty decent Riven for this, but I didn't want to put this on here because I'm trying to do like a Rivenless thing. You could put finishing touch. You could, put primed fury or whatever. Like you actually don't need focus energy. So you can like, you could make this like a quote unquote real DPS weapon. For the purposes of this video, I wanted to showcase Venari, so I didn't do that like kind of on purpose. Plus, I didn't want to put any more form on this. So the real thing here is like primed reach, great for getting more combo, get a bunch of attack speed. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna ensnare enemies, get them together, and then just get your combo counter up to 12, and you're using your heavy attack to buff Venari. You're not using your heavy attack to do damage. You can use your heavy attack to do damage and do damage with Venari, but that's not what I was trying to show here. So now Skajati is going to give you 5 seconds of invisibility, and that will break if you take any actions. So on my frame, I have Arcane Trickery. So on finisher kills, there is a 15% chance for you to become invisible for 30 seconds. Now, this invisibility will not break when you do things. Pretty nice. So what else do I have on this build? I have a bunch of strength. I have the mecha mods. I have duration. And so the reason I have strength and duration is mostly for roar. Strength is also going to buff Venari, which is pretty nice. Molt Augmented for even more strength. So Molt Augmented is relatively easy to farm from Zeramon. Arcane Trickery is super cheap. So probably the hardest things to get on this build are like the mecha mods, but even those aren't like too expensive. So this is like a relatively easy to make build. Now, why do I have fast deflection? So I have fast deflection because when you're in that period of but like I don't want to be completely reliant on Arcane Trickery. So let's say like you have bad luck, Arcane Trickery isn't proccing, you're relying on your Skajati stealth for safety. Well, it's really nice to have fast deflection because by the time you come out of Skajati stealth to do something and your stealth breaks, it's more likely your shields are going to be fully recharged. So it's just kind of like a stopgap to make you a little more tanky. Transient for more strength. I used equilibrium for like energy economy because I don't have energize on this, so I didn't want to use flow because flow is really only good if you're getting a ton of energy in. So I found equilibrium a little more consistent. Stretch is just here for ensnare, so you can ensnare enemies together. There's also another grouping tool, which is Magus Anomaly, which you might have noticed. So that also plays in with this build. And then Augur Message for like more shield gen and more more stealth or more duration and all that. So in this slot, I would definitely put Prime Sure-Footed. This build actually, like, you honestly almost don't even need Equilibrium because, frankly, the only thing you really need energy for is casting Roar every 45 seconds. Casting Ensnare is kind of just a nice to have. So, frankly, like, you could drop Equilibrium and put almost anything you want because the abilities you're actually using in this build are actually coming from your operator, not from your Warframe. So I would probably put Prime Sure-Footed here. Even though you're stealthed, enemies can still do annoying stuff like the Eximus, knockdowns and stuff like that. I just didn't. I would have had to form this build like 2 more times at least to use that, and I'd already formed it 3 times this week, so I didn't feel like it. So yeah, definitely use Prime Sure-Footed there. I already showed the Skajati build. Now let's talk Naramon. Okay, so Naramon is an incredibly important part of this build. And it's really funny because I just saw a post that was like, man, who even uses Naramon for more than just Power Spike? And that was another thing that got me thinking, like, man, what else is even in Naramon? Right? Like I've had this maxed out for like a while and I don't even know what else is in here. So you have the lift ability, not super great. It's kind of whatever. Um, so, now what you actually care about is a couple things. So there's opening slam, which is pretty nice for this build, and I'll explain why. And then you have sling stun and killer's rush. Okay. So what this lets you do is you basically do this, right? So you can group enemies together. Oh, I'm just going to pause them just because I already showed it live in Steel Path. I'm just going to pause them for the sake of the demonstration. So what you can do is you go into operator and like you go up top or wherever and then you do a slam attack, right? And that's going to give you this buff, okay? Opening slam. Now what this does is it doubles your combo point generation. You see, I swung like 3 times and I was already almost maxed out, okay? So why do you care about combo points? You care about combo points because Tandem Bond, the buff, scales with your combo counter. So you can see I'm getting 360% chance, crit chance for my pet. Now they're probably all going to be dead. Okay, now what else can we do? So the other buff for our pet was uh, Astral Bond, which if you do damage with an operator, you get another buff for your pet. So what I was doing in the mission is you cast the second ability for Naramon, which is Sling Stun. You Void Step in. So let me do this over here so that it's not a stealth finisher. So I'm in front of this guy. So he's open to finishers. So I did a finisher. Now what did that do? So that finisher, Void Sling does a little bit of damage. So it activates Astral Bond. Then your finisher gives you Killer Rush, which is more crit chance for your weapon. You also trigger the Void part of Astral Bond as well. And then that gives you your stealth from Skajati, or it's giving you your stealth from Arcane Trickery. It's also proccing the stealth for your pets. So, like, let me show you again. So, like, if I go in here and I do a finisher, now my pets are stealthed, right? Or they should be. I don't know why that didn't work. Okay. So I do a finisher and Venari should be stealthed. Yeah, so my pets are stealthed. So it's basically like using Naramon kind of helps you do all the stuff this build wants to do. On top of that, it's also really nice because you can just like passively keep your combo counter, going. I'm just gonna heavy attack these guys. They're probably gonna die. Because you want to be use. Oh, there's another thing I actually totally forgot about. One other small thing. So let's say you wanted your Skajati to be more of an actual damage weapon. You don't want focus energy, whatever. You want to put more crit damage, finisher damage, whatever you want on here, right? So let's say you want that. So there's actually another buff in Naramon. I think it's part of this. I'm actually trying to remember where it is. Oh my gosh. There was something that gave you. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh yeah, okay. I guess I'm crazy. Never mind. I thought there was something that was giving you heavy attack efficiency, but that's not true. So yeah, so you're getting a whole bunch of cool stuff from Naramon that kind of helps you with the build. Um, let's see here. Okay, so I'm actually going to add this back. All right, so now let's talk about the last piece, which is our Medjay Predacite. I really need to rename this guy. He's definitely not MR fodder. I'm sorry, man. You're better than that. I shouldn't do you dirty like that. Okay, so Medjay Predacite. Basically, I like this guy because he has some CC. He has viral that he can proc. He has which is this. He has like a lot of like disruption. Like he stuns enemies. He summons these like maggots that disrupt enemies. Obviously, you want to have fetch. So I have like, Mystic Bond for a little better energy economy, Covert Bond, the mecha mods. So it's nothing like too crazy, it's like these are kind of nice to haves. I just like this pet, and Covert Bond is really probably the Covert Bond and the mecha set mods are probably the most important thing. You could actually put this on pretty much any Kuvo or Kubro. So you could like use the Kuros Kubro for stealth. You could use the Sahasa for dig. Like there's a lot of other options. I just like this guy. He's my bro. So not too important which Kubro you put that on. It's kind of up to you. I like the Predacite precepts. So, but yeah. So let's just go do this real quick. And then the final thing I think I had mentioned already was Magus Anomaly, which is grouping enemies up even more. So you don't even really need to use Ensnare, which is like another thing that was pretty cool for this build. It is like you're using abilities, but it's stuff from your operator. So you don't really actually need to do all that much in terms of like energy usage. Okay, so let me get Roar up, and let me do my slam thing here so I can get some more combo generation. Okay, oh wow, that was really fast. Now you do have to hit an enemy, which I did not do, so I'm going to just do that. So now I have Tandem Bond up. Let me get my operator thing up. Okay, so now I'm going to have him attack that guy, right? Okay, come on, Venari. Venari, chill. Okay, so now they should. Oh, of course, the mark went away. Um, so I'm obviously not doing this very well right now. Come on, Kubro, you can do it, buddy. Okay, there we go. So this works like much better in like actual combat because you know, you get like the flow going, right? When you're doing this in like actual combat, which is why I wanted to show it on Steel Path first. So let me just get this going again real quick. So the idea is like, okay, you get your slam, which that is so buggy how that works. So if this was like quote unquote real, you would use sling stun, go in, get a finisher, so you're procking stuff, right? And then you want to like attack a few times, heavy attack a target, get that buff going, get roar on them, okay, and then have them attack the marked target, and that'll spread everything. And what's cool is the other marked targets will spread the statuses shared from a marked target. So like you get into this thing where like so it seems really like super inefficient, but you basically get into these situations where like you kill one marked target and then everything around you just explodes. Like you saw when I was on Steel Path. That's basically how it plays. You're like an operator, you're using sling stun, you sling in, you do a finisher, you're using your heavy attack to buff, you're keeping roar up, and then whenever you see a marked target, you just tap 3, send Venari in, boom, tons of viral, tons of slash procs. Those start spreading. Those spread to other mecha tagged enemies. Everything just dies. So it's like a combo type build, and like because you're constantly going in and out of operator, you're using Magus Anomaly without having to like spam it because you're just going in and out of operator anyways. Um, Probably the most annoying thing about this build is the lack of knockdown immunity on your operator. So, because you can obviously put, I took some of these mods off, and I was using Prime Surefooted up here, and it's like, it's great. You probably want Prime Surefooted, but I would need to use a few more Forma. Now, because you're not using Unairu, your operator won't have knockdown immunity, so that can actually be a little annoying. But overall, it's not like a huge deal breaker. The other operator arcane, you can kind of use whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Now let's talk about the other option. So there is one thing you could do to take this even further beyond, and it's going to get extra weird. Residual and theorem arcanes. So you can use whatever residual arcane you want. Frankly, these all suck, so just take your pick of whatever one you want to look at. Now, what the hell do these do? So, they're kit gun arcanes from Deimos. Now, there's a chance on kill. I don't know why this isn't just 100% chance. They're so bad that if it was 100, it could be 1,000% chance and they'd still be bad, but whatever. So it creates these pretty small areas that you would stand in. And when you stand in them, it will activate theorem arcanes. So theoretically, you could do something like use theorem infection. So theorem infection stacks up a damage buff for companions and allies, right? This does work with this build. I actually tested this out, and with all of the buffs up, Venari was straight up one-shotting the 195 Steel Path Heavy Gunners. Venari was one-shotting them. Like one attack of that chain attack, and they were dead. Like from the slash proc, obviously. So like the slash would tick one time, and they were done. It was absolutely insane. Now, why am I not using that if it's so insane? It really sucks to keep this buff up. It is so bad because you have to be like you're already like you saw the gameplay, right? You're already doing a lot of like maintenance with this build. This build is like it's like playing like a BM hunter in WoW, right? Like a Beastmastery hunter. Like you're already spending all your time keeping buffs up for your pet, right? Whether or like keeping your stealth up or whatever. So to add on top of that, you need to kill enemies with your kit gun, and then you need to hope that a boil procs, and then if it does, you need to stand in that spot for like 30 seconds, which this is Warframe. Like that's not Warframe. You don't do that unless it's like literally a defense mission, which I wouldn't bring this build to a defense mission probably. Um, so if you wanted to do that, you can use Strangle Dome. So that is another thing you can do. So you can use Strangle Dome, which I didn't show. So you can use Strangle Dome, put it down, cast Ensnare on a target in the Strangle Dome, and then that will, you can tell Venari to attack somebody in there, and then it does make it a little easier. It's a little bit more of like an active play style when you're not using Strangle Dome, but that option is still there. That's why I took Whip Claw off instead of Strangle Dome, so you have the option. But yeah, so this is Khora with the Skajati, Naramon, Akubro, all buffing Venari. And Venari, it turns out, can actually do some pretty darn good damage. So I haven't like tested this to see how far the build could go, but seeing as I mean you saw at the beginning of the video how Venari obliterated an Eximus unit on Steel Path that I didn't even take the overguard off. So, the build can go like pretty deep. You're at least going to be able to do incursions and like I would love to see how far this build could go. But yeah, so that's what I came up with. I tried to I solved the defensive problems with the Skajati and Arcane Trickery. Found as many ways as I could to buff Venari. Now another thing you could do, so just one more caveat, is you could use something like the Epitaph as a primer to ensure that everything had viral to buff the damage even more. Now this is like once again like I think it's probably fine to do that. I like really wanted to show like the companions shining, but you could definitely use like Epitaph as a primer as well. I think this would be the best option for this build for a primer. Um, but yeah, so I now once again this build is not good. This is not like a meta build. This is not like an insanely awesome like super OP build, right? It's just fun. This is a fun build. It's really cool to see your companion do like awesome damage, right? Um, so yeah, hopefully, Oh, and also the helmet. I never talked about that. I used Roar because it affects your. It seemed to affect your companion. I guess it only says Warframe in the description, but when I was testing, it seemed to affect Venari. Maybe it doesn't, but it didn't really matter. You can kind of use whatever you want there. But yeah, so hopefully you have fun. Turns out Venari can do some good damage. So let me know if you enjoy the build and if there's any other cool builds that you found, especially companion stuff, because I've been really into making builds for companions lately. I think it's pretty awesome what you can do with them now. So thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a good day and stay healthy. Thank you.